In this video, we're going to start the KutaSoftware Infinite Geometry free worksheet solving right triangles. Our instructions are to find the missing side and round to the nearest tenth. Before we get started, I just want to give you a quick reminder about SOHCAHTOA. The sine of an angle equals the opposite side length over the hypotenuse. The cosine of an angle equals the adjacent side length over the hypotenuse, and the tangent of an angle equals the opposite over the adjacent. So looking at number 1, we're trying to find this side x. And we're given two other pieces of information, that this angle is 72 degrees and the side adjacent to that angle is 6. And if we're trying to figure out what the hypotenuse is, you notice we have adjacent hypotenuse of an angle, so we're going to be using cosine. So the cosine of 72 degrees, that angle, is equal to the adjacent side length, 6, over our hypotenuse, x. Now we'll solve for x. We'll do that by multiplying x to both sides in order to get it out of the denominator. So we'll have x times the cosine of 72, which on our calculators, making sure our calculator is in degree mode, the cosine of 72 degrees, which is 0.3, and we'll round that to 0.31 since the 9 will round up. So x times 0.31 equals 6. And when I divide by 0.31, or 31 hundredths, I'll get x all by itself, and 6 divided by 0.31 is 19.35, which we can round up to 19.4. So 19.4 is the side length of our hypotenuse in number 1. In number 2, this time as opposed to finding the hypotenuse, we're finding that adjacent side x. And our hypotenuse is 6, and that angle measure is 73 degrees. So the cosine of 73 degrees is going to be equal to our adjacent x over our hypotenuse of 6. So all we need to do is multiply both sides by 6. The 6's will cancel out on our right, so we'll have x left, and 6 times the cosine of 73, well, the cosine of 73 degrees is 0.292, and when we multiply that by 6, we'll get 1.75, which we can round to 1.8. So 1.8 is equal to x. So 1.8 is that side length in number 2. In number 3, we're given our angle is 24 degrees. We're given the side adjacent to that angle, because remember the adjacent side helps form that angle, but is not the hypotenuse. And we're also given the opposite side, which we're supposed to find, and that's x. If we have opposite and adjacent, think SOHCAHTOA, that's going to be tangent, opposite and adjacent. So the tangent of 24 degrees is going to be equal to our opposite x over our adjacent of 12. All we need to do is multiply both sides by 12. We'll get x on the right hand side, and the tangent of 24 is 0.445, and when we multiply that by 12, we'll get 5.34. So x is 5.3 in number 3. And feel free, if you want to calculate the tangent of 24, write that as a decimal and then multiply it by 12. I'm just doing it all in one step since I'm using the calculator. In number 4, our angle is 37 degrees. We need to find the side opposite that angle given the side adjacent to that angle. So again, this is going to be tangent. So the tangent of 37 degrees equals the opposite x over our adjacent 12. So when we multiply by 12, or you can think of that as multiplying by 12 over 1, 12 will cancel out, and x divided by 1 is simply x. So x is now isolated on our right hand side, and all we need to do is multiply 12 by the tangent of 37. So the tangent of 37 degrees gives us 0.753, and when we multiply that by 12, we'll get 9.04, which rounds to 9.0. So 9.0 is our side length in number 4. Moving on to number 5, we're given an angle of 49 degrees, 14 is opposite that angle, and x is our adjacent side. So still using tangent, we're going to have the tangent of 49 degrees equal to opposite, which is 14, over our adjacent of x. Now what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by x in order to get that out of the denominator. So x times the tangent of 49 degrees equals 14. And the tangent of 49 degrees is about 1.15. So I'll have 1.15 times x equal to 14. Now my next step is to divide by 1.15, or 1 15/100. So that will give me that x is equal to 14 divided by 1.15, which is 12.17 and rounds to 12.2. So 12.2 is x for number 5. In number 6, x is my hypotenuse, and for this angle of 51 degrees, we're also given the side that's opposite that angle. So if we have opposite side and hypotenuse, we'll use sine. So the sine of 51 degrees equals the opposite side of 14 over our hypotenuse of x. Multiply both sides by x to get the x out of the denominator. And the sine of 51 degrees is equal to 0.777. 0.777 times x. That's equal to 14. And when I divide by that sine of 51, 14 divided by 0.777, x will equal 18.01, which rounds to 18.0. And just remember, the more decimal places you use, the more accurate you'll get. So if I was to round this to 0.78, when I divide 14 by 0.78, I would get 17.94, which would round to 17.9. And if I was to round that to 0.77, I would get 18.1. So the more decimal places you go, the more accurate your answer will be. That's why most of the time when I'm calculating this, if I know that 14 is being divided by the sine of 51, I'll just enter that into my calculator as is. So 14 divided by the sine of 51. 18.01, which rounds to 18.0. In number 7, we're missing our hypotenuse. We're given this angle of 63 degrees and the side opposite that angle. So if we have the sine, remember, so the sine of 63 degrees is going to be equal to the opposite side length of 16 over our hypotenuse of x. So multiply both sides by x to get that x times the sine of 63 degrees is equal to 16. Now I'll divide by the sine of 63 degrees. So as opposed to writing that as a decimal and then dividing, I'll just divide by that exact number, since I can enter that into my calculator a little easier. So 16 divided by the sine of 63 is equal to 17.95, which will round to 18.0. So x equals 18.0 for number 7. And the last problem I'll go over in this video is number 8. Before I go over the answer to this, click that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Now for number 8, we're looking for the hypotenuse, since the hypotenuse is always directly across from the 90-degree angle. And given that this angle is 15 degrees, we also have the opposite side marked in our diagram. So we're going to use sine. The sine of 15 degrees equals the opposite side length of 16 over x. Multiplying both sides by x, my x will cancel out of my denominator. So x times the sine of 15 degrees equals 16. And when I divide by the sine of 15, 16 divided by the sine of 15 is equal to 61.81, which rounds to 61.8. So x equals 61.8 in number 8. Join me in the next video where I'll complete this worksheet finishing numbers 9 through 17. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.